The movie opens with a woman named Ellen walking into a store. She has come there to buy some medicine. At first glance, she looks like an ordinary elderly woman, but it soon becomes clear that there is much more to her than meets the eye. As Ellen leaves the store, a police officer named Winston catches a young woman named Abigail Cochran. Abigail has taken a few things from the store without paying. However, there is a reason behind her actions. During the questioning, Winston learns that Abigail has no one left in this world. She has no money, no place to stay, and she has decided to leave the city for good. Winston understands her situation. Instead of taking her to jail, he gives her a warning and lets her go. Later, while traveling along the road, Henry tries to talk to Abigail, but she doesn't seem interested in talking to anyone. Eventually, he drops her off near a gas station. There, two men named Gail and Dwayne approach Abigail and offer to give her a ride. Abigail immediately makes it clear that she doesn't want to go with them, but the two men continue bothering her. Ellen notices what is happening from nearby. Without hesitation, she walks over and offers Abigail a ride with her. Abigail accepts. The two men then start making rude comments toward Ellen as well. Ellen remains calm and makes it clear that they should leave Abigail alone. What happens next leaves Abigail completely stunned. As they continue their journey, Ellen asks Abigail where she wants to go. Abigail tells her that she dreams of going to Mexico. Ellen doesn't say much. They continue talking casually, and after spending some time together, the two women slowly begin to feel comfortable around each other. After driving for a while, Ellen stops her car near a secluded house. This is Ellen's home. She invites Abigail inside and welcomes her. As soon as Abigail sees the house, she is surprised. Despite being surrounded by a quiet and isolated area, the house is beautiful and peaceful. Ellen tells her that it will soon be evening and suggests that Abigail stay there for the night. She can leave the next morning and continue wherever she wants to go. During dinner, the two women have a heartfelt conversation. Ellen tells Abigail that after her husband passed away, Abigail's father used to help her from time to time. Hearing this, Abigail opens up about her father. She explains that her father was accused of stealing something. Because of the accusation, he left home and disappeared. Since then, Abigail has had no idea where he is. Ellen listens carefully and then gives Abigail some simple advice. She tells her that traveling around the world can be a wonderful thing, but everyone needs a home to return to. The conversation becomes a little emotional, so Ellen decides to lighten the mood with a joke. She says that, in a way, they are both orphans now. The two women laugh together. For a brief moment, all the sadness in their lives seems to disappear. But neither of them realizes that this peaceful evening is about to lead them toward a secret connected to Ellen's past and the mysterious house she has spent years protecting. The next morning, a powerful and greedy real estate developer named Richard Duke arrives at Ellen's ranch with his trusted associate Mitch. Duke has come to buy Ellen's property. He explains that he wants to build a luxurious resort on the land. In exchange, he offers Ellen a large amount of money, a brand new house on any of his properties, and even a lifetime VIP membership to his resorts. But Ellen doesn't hesitate for even a second. She looks directly into Duke's eyes and firmly tells him that as long as she is alive, this ranch will never be sold, no matter how much money he offers. Duke is clearly disappointed. Before leaving, however, he gives Ellen a warning and makes it clear that he isn't going to give up so easily. That night, Ellen quietly packs Abigail's bag with some essential supplies. She also gives Abigail a hunting knife for protection and tells her to always be careful while traveling. But later that same night, something unexpected happens. Two of Duke's men, Kyle and Dwayne, secretly break into Ellen's house. Their plan is to make Ellen's death look like an accident. They carefully open the door while Ellen is asleep and quietly move toward the staircase. The two men reach the stairs and begin tampering with them, hoping to make them collapse. But one small mistake creates a faint noise. Ellen immediately wakes up. Before the intruders can react, she confronts them. Using the oxygen cylinder beside her, Ellen strikes one of the men, knocking him unconscious. The noise wakes Abigail as well. She comes face to face with Kyle and quickly runs through the house, trying to get away from him. While searching for a place to hide, Abigail discovers a firearm hidden inside a cabinet. Terrified and acting on instinct, she fires. The shot hits Kyle in the shoulder. He cries out in pain and manages to escape from the house. Abigail stands there in shock, unable to believe that she has actually shot someone. Ellen quickly calms her down and tells her not to say anything about what happened. She even assures Abigail that if necessary, she will take responsibility for everything herself. Kyle eventually makes it back to Mitch and tells him what happened. Mitch is furious. He cannot believe that two of Duke's men were unable to handle one elderly woman. He angrily scolds Kyle, but there is nothing they can do about the situation now. The next morning, the police arrive at Ellen's ranch after receiving a report about the incident. But something seems very strange. Instead of questioning the men who broke into the house, the police begin questioning Ellen. The investigation quickly starts turning against her, and the police become suspicious of her version of events. Before long, Ellen is arrested. Surprisingly, she doesn't argue or reveal what she knows. Once the police take Ellen away, Abigail is left completely alone in the house. But staying there alone is no longer safe. Abigail begins searching the house for a place where she can hide if someone comes looking for her. While exploring the property, she discovers something unusual beneath the basement. There is a hidden room. Curious, Abigail enters. The moment she sees what's inside, she is left speechless. The room contains several firearms, passports from different countries, and old photographs of Ellen wearing a military uniform. Abigail suddenly realizes that Ellen's past is far more complicated than she ever imagined. She may have been a soldier, a spy, or something even more dangerous. For now, however, meanwhile, at the police station, Ellen is being questioned. During the interrogation, one of the officers notices the fierce tiger tattoo on Ellen's arm and compliments it. He jokingly shows her his own Taylor Swift tattoo. At the same time, Dwayne is being taken to a holding cell. As he passes Ellen, he threatens her and says that her house won't be standing for long. Ellen simply looks at his injured nose and makes a sarcastic comment about it, which only makes him more frustrated. Ellen remains locked up, but she keeps warning Winston that her house needs protection. She tells him that Richard Duke's men were behind the attack the previous night. However, Winston refuses to take her seriously. Ellen finally accuses him directly of working for Duke. She asks him one last time if he is really going to protect her house. Winston simply says no. Meanwhile, Kyle and Quinn are seen stealing several containers filled with gasoline. It appears they are preparing for another attack on Ellen's house. Back at the police station, Ellen decides that waiting around is no longer an option. She pretends to faint inside her cell. Henry notices her and enters the cell to check on her. As soon as he reaches out to help, Ellen suddenly makes her move. She quickly takes his pistol and locks him inside the cell. Before leaving the station, she takes the car keys from another officer and drives straight back home. When Ellen arrives, she gives Abigail the keys to her truck and tells her to leave before the police arrive. But Abigail refuses. She makes it clear that she isn't going to leave Ellen alone. A short while later, a large police force arrives outside the house. Ellen remains completely calm as she waits for them on the porch. Several officers step out of their vehicles, and Winston approaches her. He still wants to arrest Ellen, but this time he gives her another chance. He calmly tells her that going back to the police station with him is the best thing she can do. Ellen doesn't respond. Instead, she turns around and starts walking back toward the house. Winston immediately points his gun at her. But before anyone can react, Ellen moves incredibly fast. She takes the weapon from Winston and throws him to the ground. The other officers are stunned by what they have just witnessed. Humiliated and furious, Winston orders his men to bring out heavier weapons. Henry tries to stop him. He reminds Winston that Abigail is still inside the house. He doesn't want her to get caught in the middle of an armed confrontation. So Henry decides to enter the house alone, without a weapon, and convince Abigail to come outside. Inside, Henry tells Abigail that if she comes out peacefully, the police will take Ellen into custody and bring her back to the station. But Abigail doesn't trust the police anymore. She is afraid that they will hurt Ellen once they have her. Henry tries to reassure her. He tells Abigail that no one is going to hurt an elderly woman and asks her to trust him. But Abigail still isn't convinced. And outside the house, Winston and his officers are waiting for the situation to escalate. Abigail then shows Henry some of the mysterious things she discovered in the basement. She explains that she once thought her father had simply lost his mind. But after seeing everything in the hidden room, she no longer believes that. Abigail pulls out a map that contains records of strange incidents involving several nearby ranches. One of the ranches had been destroyed by a fire, but the authorities had simply classified it as a wildfire. As Abigail connects the different pieces of information, Henry also begins to suspect that something much bigger is going on. Abigail had always believed that Henry was the first person to find her father's body. But Henry finally tells her the truth. He was only the first person from the authorities to arrive at the scene. Duke's men had actually discovered the body before him. Meanwhile, Mitch arrives with several heavily armed men. Winston asks him for some time so they can get Abigail out of the house safely. Mitch gives him only 3 minutes. Winston uses the radio to order Henry to bring Abigail outside immediately. But this time, Henry openly refuses to follow the order. Winston is left with no choice. After a moment of hesitation, he finally gives Mitch the signal to begin the operation. Ellen realizes that if Henry stays with her, she won't be able to protect everyone during the confrontation. So she knocks him unconscious and with Abigail's help, takes him to the hidden room. Ellen then locks both Abigail and Henry inside, keeping them away from the danger outside. Meanwhile, more of Mitch's men arrive at the property. They are highly trained operatives, and Mitch orders them to move in and capture Ellen. The men slowly advance toward the house. Inside, Ellen watches them from a distance. Instead of running away, she calmly waits for them to come closer. At the back of the house, another group prepares to enter. Dwayne notices several shooting targets hanging nearby. Every target has been hit almost perfectly in the center. For the first time, Dwayne realizes that they aren't dealing with an ordinary elderly woman. They are dealing with someone who is extremely dangerous and highly trained. The men decide to drive a vehicle directly toward the house, but Ellen spots them from a distance and disables the vehicle before it can reach the property. The operatives trying to enter from the back also begin running into the traps Ellen has prepared around the house. Seeing what is happening, Dwayne becomes frightened and abandons his teammates. Soon, the entire area turns chaotic as the attackers open fire around the property. Mitch and his men continue firing toward the house, trying to force Ellen out. Kyle attempts to enter through the front door, but another trap is triggered, sending him back outside. Eventually, a few operatives manage to get inside, but the moment they enter the dark house, Ellen disappears from their view. She moves through the shadows with incredible speed and precision, catching the attackers off guard one after another. Whenever possible, she takes control of their weapons and uses their own equipment against them. Her training is so precise that she rarely needs more than one well-placed shot to stop an attacker. Meanwhile, Abigail is still trapped inside the hidden room with Henry. Hearing the commotion outside, one of the operatives begins trying to open the secret door. Abigail quickly frees Henry. The moment the attacker enters and raises his weapon, Henry confronts him. But Henry soon finds himself struggling to keep up. Abigail suddenly strikes the operative from behind, knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, the constant fighting is taking a serious toll on Ellen. Her breathing becomes faster and more difficult, and she realizes that she urgently needs her oxygen. She carefully moves toward the oxygen cylinder, but Mitch notices her. He immediately starts firing in her direction. Ellen tries to take cover, but one of the shots hits her. Despite being injured, she manages to return fire. Mitch quickly takes cover behind one of his fallen teammates, making it difficult for Ellen to get a clear shot. Ellen keeps trying to fight back, but eventually, she runs out of ammunition. Mitch looks at her with a strange sense of respect. He tells her that, during her younger days, she must have been incredibly dangerous and almost impossible to stop. He then approaches Ellen and points his weapon at her. Mitch asks her what she wants to say before he finishes this. Ellen remains completely calm. She simply smiles and tells him that if he is going to shoot, he should aim directly at her head. But just as Mitch is about to pull the trigger, he suddenly notices someone behind him. Henry is standing there with a gun pointed directly at him. Mitch is forced to surrender. A short while later, Ellen, Abigail, and Henry restrain Mitch and begin questioning him. They want to know who sent him and what Richard Duke is planning. But before they can get the answers they need, Ellen's breathing problem suddenly becomes much worse. Abigail immediately rushes to get her medicine and tries to help her. In the confusion, a wine opener accidentally falls from the table. While Abigail moves into another room to take care of Ellen, Mitch starts playing mind games with Henry. He reminds Henry that Sheriff Winston had abandoned him when the situation became dangerous. Mitch keeps pushing him, knowing exactly what to say to make him angry. Henry eventually loses his patience and moves closer to Mitch. That turns out to be a serious mistake. Ellen and Abigail return as quickly as they can, but Mitch has already taken advantage of the situation. He manages to start a fire inside the house and escapes while taking Henry with him. Ellen immediately tries to stop him, but Mitch manages to get away. Outside, the rest of Mitch's armed men surround the property. They begin firing toward the house, making it almost impossible for anyone inside to escape normally. The fire spreads quickly through the building. Ellen realizes that staying there is no longer an option. She takes Abigail and Henry back to the hidden room beneath the basement. There, they collect some essential supplies before discovering the secret tunnel connected to the room. The tunnel gives them a way out of the property without being seen. The three of them make their way through it and finally reach safety. Meanwhile, Mitch and his men remain outside. When they see the burning house, they assume Ellen, Abigail, and Henry are still trapped inside. They have no idea that the three of them have already escaped. From a safe distance, Ellen watches the house burn. For her, this isn't just the loss of a building. It is the loss of the home she and her husband had built together. The next morning, Ellen, Henry, and Abigail leave in a truck that Ellen had secretly kept hidden on the property. As they drive away, the atmosphere inside the truck is quiet. After everything that has happened, Ellen finally decides to tell them more about her past. She explains that, as a child, she never had a real home. She was an orphan who spent her early years living on the streets. Later, she met her husband and eventually married him. Together, they built their first real home. For Ellen, that house became more than just a place to live. It was the first place where she finally felt safe and had a family of her own. Now, she has watched that same home disappear in flames. Although Ellen tries to stay strong, Abigail and Henry can see how deeply the loss has affected her. After everything they have discovered, the three of them now understand that Richard Duke cannot be stopped simply by accusing him. They need solid evidence that can prove his connection to the strange incidents, the attacks, and Abigail's father's mysterious death. And finding that evidence becomes their next mission. Suddenly, Abigail remembers something important. Before her father died, he had discovered some crucial information about Richard Duke. The three of them go to Abigail's father's old trailer and begin searching through his belongings. After looking through everything, they finally find a collection of documents that changes everything. The documents show that Duke's resort project was connected to several ranches that had been mysteriously destroyed or forced out of business. The evidence makes it clear that those incidents were not random. Duke had a reason for targeting those properties. Later, Abigail sits alone in the woods, looking through the documents. The truth becomes overwhelming for her. She breaks down and admits that she had hated her father for years. She was ashamed of him and never believed what he told her. Richard Duke was the real person behind everything. Abigail and Ellen decide that Duke must finally face the consequences of everything he has done. Meanwhile, that same night, Duke receives the news that Ellen is still alive. He is shocked. A short time later, the lights inside his mansion suddenly go out. The guards outside begin disappearing one after another. In the darkness, Ellen moves through the property almost silently, using the shadows to her advantage. She takes down the guards one by one before they even realize where she is. Inside the mansion, Dwayne hides Duke inside a large wardrobe and gives him a gun. Dwayne then stays outside to keep watch. At the same time, Abigail reaches a nearby dam and begins setting up the equipment she needs. But before she can finish, Kyle suddenly appears. He reveals a shocking secret. He was the person responsible for Abigail's father's death. Kyle attacks Abigail and tries to overpower her, but he doesn't realize that Abigail is still carrying the hunting knife Ellen gave her. When she gets an opportunity, Abigail uses the knife to defend herself, and Kyle is left behind. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Duke hears footsteps approaching. Terrified, he points his gun toward the wardrobe door and fires several shots without even knowing who is outside. After a few moments, the door finally opens. Ellen is standing there, holding a weapon. Duke believes she has come to, but Ellen calmly tells him that she isn't there to kill him. She has come to settle the score with Mitch. A short while later, Mitch arrives. Ellen tells him that this is no longer about business or money. This is personal because Mitch's men destroyed the home she had built with her husband. Ellen and Mitch finally face each other. Mitch challenges her to fight him directly. Ellen accepts without hesitation. At first, Mitch's strength gives him the advantage, but Ellen manages to turn the situation around and eventually defeats him. Mitch is finally left unable to continue the fight. Afterward, Ellen takes Duke toward the woods, where Abigail is waiting. Ellen gives Abigail a signal. Abigail activates the explosive she had prepared earlier, and the dam is destroyed in a massive blast. Duke becomes furious and starts shouting at Ellen. Just then, several Russian men arrive. One of them recognizes Ellen immediately. Instead of treating her like an enemy, he respectfully salutes her. Ellen and the men begin speaking in Russian. Duke watches them and starts smiling. He assumes the Russians have arrived to deal with Ellen, but he has completely misunderstood the situation. Ellen allows the men to take Duke with them because she knows that whatever awaits him will be far worse than simply facing her. Sometime later, the newspaper reports that Richard Duke is still missing following the violent incident at his mansion. Meanwhile, Henry has become the new town sheriff. He visits Ellen and brings her the medicine she needs. Before leaving, Henry and Abigail share an emotional goodbye. Finally, Ellen and Abigail pack their belongings into Abigail's father's old trailer. They are ready to leave everything behind and follow the dream they talked about when they first met. And with that, Ellen and Abigail begin a new journey together, leaving behind the mysterious house, the painful past, and everything that once stood in their way. And that's where the story comes to an end.